You clicked on this video because you want to become better at building. Now, a lot of building tutorials will go more on the detailed, but you want to start at the bottom. You want to really try and hone your skills at building. What tips do you need to become a better builder? As someone with thousands of hours in this game, and building being one of, I like to say, my strongest aspects, I'll show you some skills that you can use to help improve your building. Now, the first thing that I'd say is important is gradients. Now, gradients is going from one shade of color to another. So, for example, this is an example of a gradient of using grey blocks. You can see that you got the darkest on this side with being tough, and the lightest here with the light grey concrete powder. Now, up close you can see the different textures quite clearly. As you get further away, the textures start to be less noticeable, and the gradient is much more visible. And the more colours or more shades of colours you have within a gradient, the better it is. Another block that you could add is acacia wood just here, and that is a little bit darker and again just adds more in. Now, large gradients are mainly useful on larger scale builds such as a mega build, but if you want a large gradient on a small build, a good way to do it is by using light sources. So if I grab a lantern, an example of using a light source for a gradient is the shade. So if I were to add that lamp there, the lantern there, this block will be the brightest as it's right next to the light source. You come down and get to the darkest. That's just how light works, and it adds a little bit more realism to the build. Now, I have the mod Axiom, and this allows you to pick colours and helps with gradients. So, let's say I wanted to go from oak to dark oak. I put the dark oak in, the oak in there and the dark oak in there, and it will give me some different blocks that will fit into this gradient nicely. So if I now come here and build this gradient, you can see you get a pretty seamless transition, other than maybe the chiseled bookshelf, which might not even be needed. You come further away and it looks better. Now, there are many different ways you can do this. The mod Axiom just helps. There will be many websites out there that will help you with gradients. Now, this is a old hardcore world of mine that I had. On here I built this large cathedral, and I used a gradient having the darkest at the bottom with the acacia. This is an example of the grey gradient I showed you earlier. The acacia wood at the bottom going up to the tough, up to the cracked stone bricks, until all the way up you get to the light grey concrete powder. And on a large scale it's quite good. Instead of having one flat colour, you do that. Now, as you can see here, another example to help improve your building would be depth. So as you can see here, I have added in these overhangs and trims around the towers and just around the build in general, so that it can help add depth and even add natural shading. As you can see there, that's just the Minecraft shading making a block darker. Now, some builders will use the light gradients, like I showed earlier, to achieve more of this. Another instance of this could be what I have done here with my old roof of my house, using black stone as my darkest points, which would be covered in shade. How I imagined this was that the light was coming from that side and coming over the house. So you'd have the darkest points around here and the lightest elsewhere. And you can see that even though I've only used 3 different colours, well, shades, and you can see that it's quite a nice colouring. And this is an example of building for a perspective, as if I stand here, you can really see how I've tried to frame it along this path. Now, with depth, you can add these, and what I like to do is keep some walls flat and add lots of trimming for detail. My good tip is to always have some inspiration, and a reference image. So here I have been inspired by Tudor housing. You've got a balcony here, and you got the classic white Tudor house walls, as well as the wood framing that you see quite often, as well as adding in shutters, and then the windows being made out of fence gates as well. And it's a best idea is not to overcomplicate the shape of a build. So here you can see the basic shape is just a rectangle, and then I have added on in certain places a circular tower here and a little front bit maybe for like something else. You can also add other things in, and then trimming arches you can now make more seamless with the new shelf, or not so new shelf. And here is an example of texturing, having different shades of one colour in different spots. So this is just a basic almost brick one for my chimney. And with the shutters, it's best to alternate, don't have them all open, have some open but also have some closed. That way it adds some more depth and more realism to the build. Now, I'm going to do a example build based off a reference image that I have taken from Red Dead Redemption whilst playing through it. I'll put the image, my reference image, up on the screen now, and I'll show you the final build. Okay, now I have finished the build. I can show you how you can use the trimming for the logs that add the shading, which you can see mainly on the left, on this left side. You could see lighter logs, and I've used the mangrove just to make the darker areas stand out, and it then gives you more logs that you can use. The buttons are used so that the logs stick out ever so slightly, so that you get a slight bit of depth maybe. The roof is more so an overhang, so I've used the gates to give that support, the birch for the shutters, and then tough for the chimney on the right hand side. And you can see as well I've used spruce logs because they are actually slightly darker if I grab these 3, you can see that actually out of all of them, that would be the gradient, not spruce in the middle. Dark oak is actually more desaturated than the spruce, so the spruce actually is darker. And then again, more of the signs for the logs. Again, even on a small scale, you want to go from a distance, because here the building, the house just looks that overhang looks a lot too big, but when you go from a further distance, you can see just that it's not as harsh, which is what you would want. So it's also, you want to build from a perspective almost. You don't want to just have one angle. You do sort of still want to have multiple, and even then you might not be sure about certain things. Like the buttons, I just decided upon there and then to do. However, it might be better for me to replace them with signs, because then you still got in fact that does look better. So you also want to do some trial and error with things, as sometimes it might not work, like with the buttons, but other times it might work a lot better, like for the signs. So even just changing one thing can improve your build drastically. However, I'm not the best builder, and I'll say that. I'd say I'm alright, but this is a starting video, not a in-depth everything you need to know about building. So things you should know are trimmings, overhangs when necessary, and if I grab some of this, some spruce, and just, I don't know, grab some birch, just for the time being. Overhangs such as that, having arches, do help in building, as it just creates depth and it gives a nice shape, because it's not, if I take away the trapdoors, you can see it's still too blocky, which you don't want in building. You want it to look nice. And then you can punch a window out, add some, just grab some light stained glass, and it adds a nice bit. You can add more to it, add in that as a shelf almost, have that there, and then do that to give it a support. And again, it's alright, but sometimes you need to have different ideas and try different things out. So with this, I can just switch this about a bit and probably make it look a lot better just by increasing the height. You then get the trimming at the bottom with the trapdoors and fences, and you get the nice arch. So even simple building tricks like that can help your building skills grow drastically. The texturing of the path. For a path, you want very similar colours. You don't want one colour to stand out. I did try some jungle, but it is just that little bit too much of a different colour than I wanted. So it's good to play around. Building is not something that will happen overnight. You will not get good at building overnight. It takes a long time to refine your skills, and it's repetition, repetition, repetition. The more you build, the better you will become. So thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one of Building 101, which will be my new series along with my Forever World.